The words hit me before the meaning did. "Melissa, I think it's best if you leave." My father's voice carried across the dining room with the same cold precision he used in closing arguments. The crystal chandelier above seemed to dim, or maybe that was just my vision narrowing. I felt my fingers tighten around the stem of my wine glass until the fragile bowl threatened to crack. The chatter around the table died instantly. Forks froze mid-air. My sister Lauren's perfectly painted smile faltered. My brother Bryce suddenly found his plate fascinating. Every eye in that room turned toward me. Some confused, most knowing. They'd been waiting for this. My father stood at the head of the table, hand still raised with his toast incomplete, looking at me like I was a motion to dismiss that had just been granted. The formal invitation, the demanded attendance, the placement card at the far end near Aunt Marlene, who thought Jonah was my driver. It had all been orchestrated for this exact moment, public execution disguised as family celebration. My name is Melissa. I'm 34 and a publishing director. This is the story of how I stopped begging for a seat at a table that was never meant for me. I stood because what else could I do? My napkin slipped from my lap to the floor, but I didn't bend to pick it up. My hands had gone numb, my throat tight, but I wasn't crying. Not yet. I'd learned long ago how to swallow shame in front of the Harper family. It was practically a survival skill. Then Jonah's chair scraped against the hardwood floor. My husband stood beside me, and there was something in his posture I'd rarely seen. A coiled tension that made every person in that room suddenly sit straighter. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking directly at my father with the kind of steady gaze that made corporate investors uncomfortable in negotiations. "I'd like to make a toast," Jonah said quietly. My father's jaw tightened. "This isn't your place." "That's debatable," Jonah replied, raising his glass. "But tonight I'm the only one acting like family." The room held its breath. I felt something shift inside me, not just relief that someone was defending me, but something sharper, anger. Clear, focused, overdue anger. Because this moment didn't start tonight. It started 34 years ago when I was born the wrong kind of Harper. The kind who loved stories more than stock portfolios, who chose words over litigation, who measured success in lives touched rather than titles earned. My father, Gerald Harper, was a litigation partner who'd built his career on destroying opposing counsel's arguments with surgical precision. At home, he applied the same ruthless standards. Love wasn't given. It was earned through achievement that met his exact specifications. My siblings learned to perform. I learned to disappear. Bryce, the eldest, became everything Dad wanted. Varsity athlete, law school honors, now climbing the ranks at Dad's old firm. Lauren went into cardiothoracic surgery, because of course she did. Their successes were celebrated with champagne and speeches at gatherings like this one. Mine were tolerated when they couldn't be ignored. I was 8 when I won my first writing contest. I handed Dad the certificate with trembling hands, desperate for just a flicker of pride. He glanced at it and said, "Writing doesn't pay the bills." That was it. No congratulations. No display on the fridge like other parents did. Just a reminder that I'd chosen wrong, was wrong, would always be wrong in his eyes. When I switched my major from business to English Lit freshman year, he cut off my college funding entirely. "If you're going to chase dreams, do it on your own dime." I worked 2 jobs, took out loans, graduated with honors. It changed nothing. I spent my 20s trying to earn what should have been given freely. I shrank myself to fit into conversations about court cases and medical procedures. I laughed at jokes that weren't funny. I showed up to gatherings where I was treated like a ghost even when I was standing right there. Then I met Jonah in a bookstore on a rainy Tuesday, and for the first time, someone saw me without asking me to change. He was comparing book blurbs with the seriousness of someone choosing a life philosophy. When he caught me smiling at his intensity, he grinned back and offered to buy me tea. That afternoon turned into 3 hours of conversation, where he actually listened, not to judge, but because he was genuinely interested in what I had to say. Jonah didn't come from money or prestige. His father was a union electrician, his mother a public school art teacher. They welcomed me like I'd always belonged with them. When we got married a year later, my father said he was busy that weekend. He didn't attend. My siblings sent perfunctory texts. But Jonah's mom cried happy tears and his dad called me family, and I realized that's what real love looked like. Uncomplicated, unconditional, freely given. So when the ivory invitation arrived 3 weeks ago, thick cardstock with Dad's monogram in gold foil, I knew I should throw it away. Harper family celebration, immediate family only, formal attire. No explanation of what we were celebrating, no warm note, just a command performance. "You don't have to go," Jonah said gently when he found me staring at it. "I know," I replied, but some pathetic part of me still hoped. Maybe Dad was softening. Maybe he'd finally see me. I bought a dark green satin dress, had my hair done, rehearsed polite things to say in the car on the way over. When we arrived at Dad's house, the one that used to be my parents' before Mom died, no one greeted us at the door. Inside, soft jazz played. Lauren held court in red silk by the fireplace. Bryce laughed with Dad's colleagues from the firm. They looked at me like I was furniture. Spoken to, but not included. Tolerated, but not welcomed. The place cards at dinner told the real story. Dad at the head, Lauren to his right, Bryce to his left, Jonah and me at the far end next to Aunt Marlene, who spent dinner spooning mashed potatoes onto her napkin and asking if Jonah was my driver. I watched Dad laugh with my siblings, toast to their achievements, speak animatedly about their careers. I sat 30 feet away and felt like I was watching through glass. Every minute confirmed what I already knew but kept denying. I would never be enough for him because I'd never wanted to be what he required. Then came the toast, the one where he praised Bryce's leadership and Lauren's surgical precision, where he talked about those who choose different paths while looking directly at me, where he smiled that cold litigation smile and said the words that would change everything. "I think it's best if you leave." Now Jonah was raising his glass and my father's face had gone rigid. "To the woman you just tried to dismiss," Jonah said, his voice cutting clear through the silence. "My wife, Melis." He turned slightly toward me, then back to Dad. "You say tonight is for people who matter. Let me tell you who matters. Melis built her life without a safety net after you cut her off. She worked 2 jobs while finishing her degree. She launched her own imprint and gave dozens of authors their first shot. Veterans, immigrants, teenagers who'd never seen themselves in a book before. She's been featured in literary festivals you've probably never heard of because you never asked. Dad's knuckles went white on his wine glass. "But none of that matters to you," Jonah continued, "because you don't measure success in impact. You measure it in status and control. And when Melis refused to conform, you didn't just dismiss her. You erased her, publicly, on purpose." He looked around the table. "To the rest of you, if this feels awkward, it should. You watched a father humiliate his daughter in front of everyone and you said nothing. Some of you smiled. The silence was absolute. My cousin couldn't meet my eyes. Lauren's face had gone pale. Then Jonah looked at me, his expression softening. "But here's what matters. Melis, I see you. I've always seen you. Not as the daughter who failed someone else's checklist, but as the woman who had the courage to define herself." Something broke open in my chest. Not pain this time. Recognition. Jonah turned back to Dad. "You told her to leave. Fine. We'll both leave." He set his glass down gently. "But don't ever mistake your silence for authority again. You may control this house and dominate this family, but you do not get to dictate her worth." He took my hand, steady, certain, warm. And that's when I realized I wasn't leaving in shame. I was walking away from people who would never see me. There's a difference. But I wasn't done yet. I pulled my hand gently from Jonah's and turned to face my father. My voice surprised me with its steadiness. "Do you know what's funny, Dad?" I said. "I spent 34 years thinking something was wrong with me, that if I just worked harder, achieved more, became someone different, you'd finally love me." I looked around the table. "But tonight made me realize you can't love what you don't respect, and you've never respected anything that didn't look exactly like you." My father's face remained impassive, but I saw his jaw working. "Bryce," I said, turning to my brother, "how many times did you use my marketing analysis for your pitches? 3, 4? You never credited me, just took the work and collected the praise." Bryce's face flushed red. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Lauren, I continued, my sister's eyes going wide. Remember when you told Mom's hospice nurse I was too emotional to make medical decisions? You had me removed from her care team in her final weeks. I barely got to say goodbye. Lauren opened her mouth, then closed it. I looked back at my father. You taught them that cruelty is fine as long as it's polite. That exclusion is acceptable if you dress it up in formal invitations and place cards. But I'm done being your lesson in what happens to Harper children who don't perform correctly. I picked up my purse. And Dad, since you're so concerned about contributions and legacies, I've been documenting everything, every dismissal, every exclusion, every time you told Mom not to encourage my foolishness. I'm writing a memoir. My father's face finally changed. Fear flickered across it. It's not about revenge, I said quietly. It's about truth, about what happens to children raised by parents who treat love like a performance review. My publisher thinks it'll resonate with a lot of people. I looked at Lauren and Bryce. You'll both be in it. Every stolen credit, every cruel comment, every time you stood silent while he tore me down. I'm not changing your names. The room was so quiet I could hear the candles flickering. You wanted me to leave, I said to my father. Consider it permanent. But unlike you, I'm not doing it quietly. I'm doing it publicly, with receipts. I walked toward the door with Jonah beside me, his hand finding mine again. At the threshold, my father's voice cracked out. If you write that book, you're cut off permanently from everything. I didn't turn around. Your money was never what I needed. Your love was, and that expired a long time ago. The door closed behind us with a soft click. Outside, the night air felt impossibly clean. In the car, I started shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of finally speaking truth after 34 years of swallowing it. You okay? Jonah asked softly. I think so, I said. Then I laughed, a real, genuine laugh. I'm writing that book. I'm actually doing it. He squeezed my hand. I know. I saw it in your eyes the moment you decided. The next morning, I woke to 17 texts. Bryce said, that was unnecessary. Lauren said, you've always made everything about you. Various relatives with concerned trolling messages about family unity and forgiveness. I blocked them all, but there was one message that mattered, from my editor at work. Coffee Monday? Want to hear your pitch for that memoir you mentioned? I'd sent her a voice memo at 2 a.m., unable to sleep, the words pouring out after years of silence. Now it was real. I wasn't just walking away. I was speaking up. Not just for me, but for everyone who'd ever been made to feel like they were the problem when really, they were just surrounded by the wrong people. The book took 8 months to write. I poured everything into it. The small cruelties, the gaslighting disguised as concern, the way exclusion became normal when everyone participated in the silence. I changed some details to protect privacy, but the emotional truth remained raw and unflinching. My publisher scheduled it for fall release. The marketing team called it necessary and brave. I called it survival. 3 weeks before publication, my father's attorney sent a cease and desist letter. I sent it to my own lawyer, who laughed and said, truth is an absolute defense. They have nothing. The cease and desist was quietly dropped 2 weeks later. The book launched on a Tuesday in October. By Friday, it had hit 3 bestseller lists, not because it was salacious, because it was honest. Thousands of people left reviews saying, this is my family too. I thought I was the only one. Thank you for saying what I couldn't. My father never contacted me directly, but Lauren sent an email 6 weeks after publication. You've embarrassed us all. I hope you're happy. I wrote back. I'm not happy, but I'm free. There's a difference. She remained in her surgical position, but I heard through a colleague that her application for a department head role was quietly withdrawn. Bryce sent nothing. But through mutual connections, I heard he'd been asked to step back from a board position after someone forwarded him passages from my book at a meeting. Apparently, comparing his professional reputation to my actual documented work made him look less impressive. The things he'd taken credit for suddenly had my fingerprints all over them. Through those same connections, I learned my father had resigned from 2 nonprofit boards. Quietly, without explanation, the Whisper Network had read my book. Karma isn't revenge, it's just the truth catching up. 1 year after that dinner party, I stood in the nursery of our new home outside Seattle, rocking my daughter as spring rain tapped against the window. Her name is Iris June Harper, Iris for resilience. The flower that grows back every year no matter what tries to kill it. June for new beginnings. She was 6 weeks old and already had Jonah's steady gaze and a grip that wouldn't let go once she'd taken hold of something. I'd found out I was pregnant 3 months after that dinner, during the most intense period of writing. Somehow, creating new life while documenting old wounds felt right. "Everyone's here," Jonah said from the doorway, holding my tea. Our living room was full of chosen family, Jonah's parents, my co-workers, friends who'd shown up without conditions. String lights glowed warm against the walls. A cake said, "Welcome, Iris." No speeches about achievements, just people who loved without requiring performance. Later, after everyone left, I found a letter by the door. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. My father's. I held it for a long moment, then placed it unopened in a drawer. Not out of bitterness. I'd already said everything I needed to say, in print for the world to read. I didn't need his words anymore. They no longer shaped me. That night, I sat beside Iris's crib, watching her tiny chest rise and fall. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who begged for permission to exist, who shrank herself trying to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. I leaned close and whispered the words I wished someone had said to me as a child. "You are already enough. You don't have to earn my love. It's yours completely, unconditionally, forever." As I said it to her, I realized I was finally saying it to myself too. To the little girl who loved stories when she was supposed to love law. To the young woman who walked out of that dining room and found her voice on the other side. To the author who turned her pain into purpose. And to every daughter who ever wondered if she was the problem, let me tell you what I learned. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't win their approval. It's stop needing it. The people who matter will see you without you having to prove yourself. And the ones who don't, they're just characters in your origin story, the obstacle that taught you how strong you really were. I don't talk to my father anymore. I don't need to. But thousands of strangers write to me now saying my words gave them permission to leave toxic families, set boundaries, stop performing for people who would never appreciate the show. That's not revenge. That's justice. And it turns out the best revenge isn't making them sorry. It's making them irrelevant while you build something beautiful they can't touch. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one. The mug slipped from my fingers, coffee splashing across my pristine white carpet as my father's words registered through the phone. "We've decided it would be best if you didn't attend your sister's graduation ceremony. We need to focus on people who have actually achieved something." Through my window, I could see the laptop with its red bow, a $1,200 gift from my sister, who would never know I bought it. "Don't bother coming home this weekend," my father continued, his voice hardening. "Elle needs to focus on her celebration. Your presence would only remind everyone of, well, your shortcomings." The line went dead before I could respond. My name is Tara. I'm 30 years old and the CEO of a medical nutrition company. This is the story of how I rebuilt my life after being erased by my own family. I suppose I should have expected this. For as long as I could remember, my parents had made it clear that my younger sister Elle was their true pride and joy. I was just the defective firstborn they were obligated to tolerate. My father's family ran a medical clinic where my mother worked. We appeared perfect, but the reality was poisonous. "Listen here," my father had told me during my 3rd year of high school, his voice cold as he towered over me at the kitchen table. "We won't allow you to go to college. You're just a defective good-for-nothing anyway." I'd recorded that conversation. I'd been documenting their abuse for years. Withheld meals, ruined textbooks, being locked outside in winter. "There's no way you could get into college," my mother had added. "You'll start working right after high school and give us money. You need to properly repay us for raising someone as unlovely as you." I'd nodded, eyes downcast while mentally calculating the growing balance in my secret bank account. It was the one they didn't know existed, funded by the portion of my part-time income I'd been carefully underreporting for years. After high school, I worked freelance jobs for 3 years. Unknown to them, I had rented an apartment and was taking night classes. When my sister was preparing for exams, I was finally kicked out. "I can't concentrate with you around," Elle had complained. "My parents expected me to beg to return. Instead, I vanished completely." That was 9 years ago. I excused myself from my husband Kane to use the ladies' room at the luxury hotel where Elle's wedding was held. I was only here because my aunt, my father's distant cousin who had always been kind to me, had forwarded the invitation. She thought I should know about it. I debated attending, but Kane thought it might provide closure. As I emerged from the restroom, familiar voices caught my attention. "Oh, look who's here. That defective piece of goods. Why is she in a place like this?" "What do you mean, Mom? Oh my goodness, you're right. Why would anyone invite her?" These weren't subtle remarks. They were deliberate insults. I quickened my pace to avoid confrontation. "Wait, right there, you ugly thing. I know you can hear me." I kept walking. Someone grabbed my arm from behind. "I told you to wait," shouted the woman, gripping my arm, slightly out of breath. I looked her up and down before firmly shaking off her hand. When I did, she stumbled dramatically with an exaggerated cry, her designer dress swishing around her knees. "Elle, are you all right? How violent she is," said another woman, rushing to support her. "I suppose this is what happens when someone with such a low intellect is raised." Then she glared at me, her eyes cold and familiar. "Excuse me, but what's this about? Who are you?" I asked calmly. "What? Who am I? Are you saying you've forgotten me?" "Well, all I can say is that you seem like quite a self-absorbed and rude person. Have we met somewhere before?" When I said this, she raised her perfectly shaped eyebrows. They had cost more than my monthly grocery budget, if I had to guess. "What's your problem? How dare you take that attitude with me? If you say you've forgotten, I'll remind you. I'm your sister, Elle. Remember now? Surely even your disappointing brain can recall that. And this is our mother. Don't tell me you've forgotten your own parent, too." I tilted my head slightly. "Well, I suppose someone by that name might have been close to me once upon a time." My response seemed to anger them both further. Just then, 2 men came running up, their footsteps echoing on the marble floor. "Hey, what's all the commotion? We could hear the shouting from over there," one of them said. "Elle, are you finished with preparations? Oh, wait, you're still in your regular clothes. You need to change quickly." "Dad, Ron, there's an intruder who's crashed our wedding. Please throw her out right now," Elle pointed at me while shouting. The 2 men's reactions upon seeing me couldn't have been more different. The man Elle called Dad widened his eyes, then scowled with obvious displeasure. The man called Ron froze with a shocked expression, the color draining from his face. "Why is she here? I never thought I'd have to see her face on such a happy day," my father muttered. "Right, she must have snuck in here by mistake. This is awful. Please call security right away," my mother added. "Hey, what are you saying?" "Watch your mouth. This person is—" Ron started shouting, his face pale. Seeing this, I murmured quietly, "So you really don't know anything, do you?" No one noticed my whispered observation. "Tara, so this is where you were. I was looking for you," said a new arrival, my husband, Kane. Everyone's attention turned to him at once. Kane looked slightly taken aback by the tense atmosphere. "Sorry, I meant to come right back, but I got caught up with some strange people," I said with a wry smile as I moved closer to him. Kane blinked and looked around at everyone present, then muttered, "Ah." It seemed he'd quickly grasped the situation. Elle, who had been staring at Kane in admiration when he suddenly appeared, quickly switched back to glaring at me when I stood beside him. My parents still wore confused expressions, as if they hadn't fully processed what was happening. Ron, meanwhile, was clearly flustered. He was also the first to speak up. Dr. Ford, I'm so sorry. It seems my wife has been very rude. And, my deepest apologies to your wife as well. Hey, Elle, you apologize too, Ron said, turning to my sister. What? Why should I apologize? She's the one who should be apologizing. This shameless person who snuck into our important wedding. I don't know how she found out about it, but this woman is our family's shame. We threw her out of the house long ago and we were supposed to never see her face again. Family? Kane asked, his voice deceptively soft. You say family. He seemed surprised by this word and looked back and forth between Elle and me. My parents quickly jumped in to explain. Oh, I'm sorry, Ron. You see, we have a good-for-nothing eldest daughter. She's such an embarrassment. We couldn't even bring ourselves to mention her. Well, we threw her out of the house 9 years ago, my father said smoothly, as if describing a minor inconvenience. Really? I wonder how she found out about Elle's wedding, showing up here like this. What could she be planning? She's not trying to ruin Elle's wedding, is she? My mother added. That's right. She was a foolish daughter who couldn't even get into college. Just a useless defect. She wasted her time with part-time jobs after graduation and lazed around the house, being nothing but a nuisance. She was quite the parasite. We should be thanked for taking care of her through high school. The insults kept coming. However, I had long since given up on this family and had learned to gracefully ignore all manner of verbal abuse. Yes, technically, these people were my family. That's what the family register said. But in reality, my parents had doted on my sister, who was 6 years younger than me, while I was completely neglected from the time I could remember. Listen here. Kane suddenly turned to me, his eyes intense. Tara, are these people really your family? No, they're not family at all, I replied without hesitation. After all, family doesn't suddenly yell at you for unreasonable things or withhold food for a day just for spilling a little on the table. My voice remained steady as I continued. Family doesn't give you hand-me-downs from who knows where while giving my sister brand-name dresses and laughing at the comparison. They don't throw away your study material saying, you're stupid anyway, so you don't need these. They don't ruin textbooks by soaking them in water. The wedding guests nearby had fallen silent, straining to hear our conversation. You're right, Kane nodded. Family doesn't throw you outside barefoot in winter for not lending a book to your sister, or lock you in a storage shed in summer, calling it discipline. They don't sell your belongings without permission or say to your face that they'll work you like a slave for life. I wasn't surprised by Kane's knowledge of these details. I'd shared my journals and recordings with him during our first year together, when nightmares of my past still haunted me. Even the neighbors noticed something was wrong with how the clinic treated the sisters differently, I added. Suspecting abuse, they stopped bringing their children to a clinic where parents would treat their child that way. I'm surprised nobody reported them for child abuse back then. Now their business is suffering because of it, but they haven't even realized why. It's really something else. During our matter-of-fact exchange revealing the awful treatment I received in the past, Ron was staring wide-eyed. My parents looked stunned, not by the accuracy of our accusations, but by the fact that their daughter, who left home long ago, knew about their clinic's declining business. This information had come from my in-laws' investigation. My in-laws were very sympathetic about the treatment I received and got even angrier about it than I did. They were kind people, and Kane was the same way. They had been investigating my parents' clinic, thinking it might be useful someday. Hey, stop telling lies. We never did any of that. It's your fault for being a failure, my mother shouted, her voice rising to a panicked pitch. Ron, don't believe what this woman says. My sister joined in, her face flushed with anger, but I think it was too late. Ron was looking at her with growing disgust. If only she hadn't chased after me when I tried to ignore her and leave, this wouldn't have happened. No, you're the one who's been lying all along, Kane said directly to Elle. What do you mean? She demanded. You said doctor. Ford's wife only graduated high school? She's a college graduate who started a company and is its president, a medical food-related company that even our hospital relies on. Kane knew Ron through professional networks. My company had been supplying specialized nutritional products to their hospital for almost 2 years now. President? My sister looked at me like she was seeing something unbelievable. My parents wore the same expression. Don't you dare lie. You only graduated high school. What's this about college? Are you saying you went to college without telling us? My father demanded. Yes, I did. After all, I was an adult and I had no reason to report anything to people who weren't really family anymore, right? How dare you speak to your parents that way? We told you we wouldn't allow you to go to college. My mother sputtered. And why exactly did I need your permission? I responded with exasperation. My parents ground their teeth in frustration. During my time as a part-time worker after high school graduation, I'd saved up a considerable amount of money. I used part of it for college expenses. There were still things I wanted to learn and things I wanted to do. Once I left home, I was completely free and could do anything. I met my current husband during college, while I was starting my company. Meanwhile, my sister was muttering something with a pale face. It's a lie, because this one was a defective failure, a useless older sister who couldn't do anything on her own. I thought she must have died in a gutter somewhere after being thrown out of the house, but instead she even went to college, and now she's a company president and she caught the heir to a big hospital. Why? I was supposed to be the one who would definitely be happier. Why? Why are you more successful than me? Why do you look so happy? I wonder why, I replied thoughtfully. Maybe because I kept working hard without becoming bitter, even while receiving unreasonable treatment from my family. Well, I guess I was pretty lucky too. I said this while looking back at my sister. Then I dropped a bombshell. By the way, I heard you actually dropped out of medical school. Is that true? With those words, the atmosphere froze completely. My former family members and Ron all went rigid. What are you suddenly talking about? Who dropped out of medical school? My sister demanded, her voice shaking. Actually, I heard from our kind aunt who's always been good to me. After I left home, you got complacent, thinking you could easily get into any prestigious school and didn't study at all. Then you showed up on exam day and turned in almost blank papers. Of course, you failed. My sister's face had gone completely white as I continued. Then you threw tantrums at home and became a shut-in. You only started going out recently. That was after our parents introduced you to Dr. Ron as a suitable marriage partner. And only then did you finally break out of being a shut-in. As I spoke, Ron's face grew increasingly stern. In contrast, my parents and sister lost more and more color. The aunt who told me this is a distant relative on my father's side. She's a gossip who somehow always knows everything and tells me about it. Though we'd only met 2 or 3 times when I was little, she always looked out for me and even became my guarantor when I needed one. After I left home, she tracked me down through mutual acquaintances, and we've kept in touch via email ever since. You stop spreading lies. My sister tried to object with a trembling voice, but I ignored her and continued. Also, you're supposedly working as a medical office clerk at the family clinic, but that's a lie too, isn't it? You don't actually have any qualifications and are just working as an odd jobs helper, right? They can't assign specialized work to someone without qualifications. I'm glad to see they retained at least that much ethical sense. Stop it! Those are all lies! Everything you're saying is a lie! Elle shouted, her voice cracking. Is that so? Well, I'm just telling you what I've heard. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. When I said this, my sister whirled around to face Ron. His expression was filled with suspicion, confusion, and disgust. Elle, you told me and our parents that you graduated from a famous medical school, then got your qualifications and were helping at the family clinic, right? Was it all lies? Academic fraud? This is fraud. You deceived me. That's not true. Ron, don't believe what this woman says. Elle pleaded, grabbing his sleeve. Ron, you're my husband, right? Believe me. Then tell me the name of just one professor from the university you attended. When Ron pressed her like this, my sister froze. That's not relevant now. Oh? Then I'll call one of the professors from the department you claim to attend right now. They're acquaintances of my parents. They know me, their son, and we socialize as families. I'll ask if there was ever a student named Elle. Ron said this while reaching for his smartphone. Stop it! There's no need for that. If you would just believe me, that should be enough. My sister lunged for Ron's phone, snatched it, and slammed it to the floor. Don't try to verify anything. Just believe me. Then she ground the phone further with her heel, her expression almost demonic. Ron was clearly put off, and my stunned parents hurriedly tried to stop my sister. Other wedding guests and venue staff gathered, drawn by the commotion. It had turned into quite a scene. The fact that it felt like someone else's problem must have been because I no longer felt any family connection to them. My family was just my husband and son now. "Well, shall we go home? We've given the wedding gift. We've fulfilled our social obligation, right?" I suggested to Kane. "Are you sure you're done, Tara?" My husband implicitly asked if I'd said everything I wanted to say, if I was done with my revenge. I answered with a bright smile. "I don't care anymore. Let's go home." "Oh, let's stop by the cake shop in this hotel on our way out. I want to try their super luxury cake," Kane suggested. "Sure, let's go. Let's buy some cake to take home." Laughing together, we left the wedding venue. 6 months later, my assistant informed me Alan Ron was being sued for exaggerating diagnoses and charging excessive fees. He'd mentioned me as a character reference. I declined to be involved. Later, my parents showed up at my husband's hospital, demanding to see me and claiming I was obligated to help them. I asked my in-laws to handle it. My father-in-law, the hospital director, personally confronted them and sent them away. Eventually, their clinic closed when former patients complained about their practices. I felt nothing when I heard about it. My sister's marriage lasted barely 3 months. Alan divorced her after his career fell apart. Elle began an affair with a married doctor, creating another scandal when it was discovered. My parents disowned her as a family disgrace, the same label they once gave me. I've heard rumors about Elle's downfall, but have no interest in verifying any of it. My parents can't find work anywhere with their reputation. I don't think about them anymore. My son's health issues were resolved with simple medication. He's 4 now, born during the 3rd year of my marriage to Kane, and thriving with the nurturing care I never received. Today, my real family is gathering for a birthday celebration. The greatest revenge was building a life filled with the love and respect they never thought I deserved. I protect my family.